Famine Swamp was indeed the foulest place, filled with plague, sicknesses, and diseases. The stench alone would be fatal, let alone the horrors of those lurking within. However, beneath a grassy, muddy patch carrying stagnant green water lay the scythe. The Reaper walked towards his weapon and picked it up. His demeanor was different. He was angrier than before. Now he was fear incarnate, a living nightmare that would make every living being in every timeline tremble with absolute dread. The Grim took 3 minutes from the winter village to the swamp. Now in real time that would serve as 3 weeks, and in those 3 weeks, Death had been busy, for he stood in the dark and eerie swamp not alone. He pointed his scythe and watched 3 magical portals opening up. Those who walked out and stood behind Death ready for battle were not unfamiliar to you, my dear viewers and listeners, for the Grim Reaper had backup from the best people that he could find. Victor, the Grey Wolf of the Prophecy. Myra, the young and beautiful witch with dark magic flowing through her veins. And Fesliyan, the vampire cop, who now seemed to have embraced the monster within. Thus beginning the epic finale of the Werewolf and Reaper, Volume 1. Famine dragged the white wolf by his collar made of fur. As small and weak as she may have looked, it seemed like Ragnar weighed less than a mere twig on the ground. The werewolf's eyes opened and closed, dazed from the pain. He saw the skeleton army patrolling the far end of the swamp. Their green eyes glowed through the fog, but there was something different about them. The way they walked, moved, and carried out themselves, Ragnar knew immediately. These skeleton creatures, now starved and possessed by a supernatural force, were once fearsome warriors like himself. His eyes moved back to the nightmarish nature of the swamp. He struggled to breathe, not solely because of the opened wound in his stomach, but also the plague fog and smoke engulfing the place. Famine, however, seemed to breathe just fine. After all, she was immune to every disease and virus that existed. She then took Ragnar down a long stairway. The white wolf had now been unconscious, therefore never felt his head getting smashed against the stone steps. Famine picked up the giant werewolf with one arm, then tossed him onto a wooden table. Her dungeon was filled with jars, tubes, pipes, and toxic waste mixed with chemicals in cabinets. She also had laboratory equipment neatly packed, the same way that a chemistry student would. Famine used her razor-sharp nails and made slits onto Ragnar's arm, right between the forearm and bicep. She stuck long tubes into the werewolf's arms, siphoning out blood into vials. One vial, however, seemed larger than the rest, and as the blood slowly dropped to the bottom, she heard footsteps echoing through her dungeon. But these weren't ordinary footsteps, rather monstrous and thunderous, filled with malice and power, shaking the dungeon's foundation and crumbling the stone walls. The sound of metal clanging on impact and a weapon scratching the surface. She felt this ominous presence approaching, which made her back up further from the stairway. These footsteps belonged to the first and oldest rider of the apocalypse, her brother, War. He was a giant, so large that he dwarfed the great and mighty Ragnar Liefsson, 15 feet tall and 850 pounds. War was the second most feared in hell. He has conquered many armies in more worlds that have been documented. He is a force like no other. He stood strong and tall with his black cloak moving against the draft inside the dungeon. His body covered in metal with a large warhammer attached to his back, concealed by the cloak. His facial features were also hidden by a long and pointy metal mask. However, his glowing red eyes shining through could not be hidden, no matter how much they tried. Famine hid her fear well at first, standing confident and strong herself, though discreetly. She began peeling the skin around her fingernails in anxiousness, and then she found the courage to speak.
Well, Bad, just because I told you about my swamp does not mean you can show up when you want to.
War moved slowly and confidently like there was no other being, human or supernatural, worthy of his time. He grabbed 2 wooden chairs and sat on them, looking at his sister. She heard him breathing through the metal mask. She felt his red eyes touching the darkest and most vulnerable parts of what little soul she had left. Then he spoke.
Feroh, you've done well, little one. Perhaps I should refrain from doubting you. How did you get it done?
Famine exhaled deeply in relief and replied.
It wasn't easy. I lured them in. I starved my Wendigo to such an extent it could not return home until it fed. Ragnar and Dad took the bait. Of course they would defeat my demon with ease. However, it also gave me an opening to catch the white wolf. Ragnar Liefsson would become my weapon of mass destruction. Do you know how many diseases he could spread? He is the best carrier I could ever have hoped for.
She then pointed to the vial filling up with his blood.
And this vial is what you requested. Part of our agreement, yes?
His scythe. Where is his scythe?
The scythe? Who cares about his stupid weapon? He can't kill us anyway. Only Ragnar can.
War gradually stood up and walked towards his sister. His breathing was heavier and his aura could crush the stone walls in a heartbeat. He was face to face with Famine when he said,
You foolish child, you dare question me? That scythe is the key to our brother's mission. You were so fixated on catching the werewolf that you ignored the most dangerous weapon in all of existence.
Famine moved closer to War, not cowering away this time.
And you need to watch your tone, brother. I have sacrificed my horse for this mission. You're in my swamp, my dungeon, with my werewolf.
As War was about to strike her with the back of his hand covered in metal gloves, he stopped midway and turned his head to the side towards the stairway. Famine did so as well. They said it at the same time.
He's here.
Famine snapped her head back in a creepy, possessed manner. Her glowing green eyes had turned pale while looking at the ceiling. Her hands rose to the side with her fingers tightened like claws. Her skeleton army in the swamp had stopped dead in their tracks. They were puppets being controlled by supernatural strings pulled by Famine. They march in thousands like their master's life depends on it. Famine rushed up the stairway, turning back only to see War sitting back on both chairs. He moved closer to the vial, admiring the blood slowly filling up. War had no intention of leaving the dungeon. He never cared about Famine. All he wanted was this vial of blood. He said,
This is your mess, Famine. Your carelessness. If you fail me again, I will feed you to Monolith.
Ah yes, Monolith, the dragon of all dragons, and not only War's beloved pet, but his loyal servant as well. Angels and demons had feared this beast, more so than they feared Monrog the Hellhound. The more it ate, the more it grew, and that should be sufficient to describe on how ant-like a demon like Zalzar was, standing in front of this monstrosity. Zargon, the demon king commanding Zalzar, would be the only being surpassing Monolith in size. Why did Famine's eyes flicker? Was it fear of her brother? Was the name Monolith responsible for her tremble? No. Famine could hold her own against the strongest of supernatural beings, but why did she anticipate this feeling of doom? Why did she feel like of all the eons she had lived through, today she was going to die? Death never spoke. It was only a matter of time before they caught sight of the skeleton army. He stood in the swamp with the front portion of his cloak opened. He had a much larger body with pale skin and elongated muscle. This version of the Reaper, as frightening as can be, was the way that people had imagined him. No one spoke. The witch, vampire, and werewolf trio had their own problems to deal with in their own world. The elf lord Eleanor and the dwarven warrior Berthold would have been summoned by that, but the witch told the Reaper they were doing well, though they were caught up in something. How strange. What could be so important they would turn down the opportunity to save their best friend, Ragnar Liefsson? This was a lie told by Myra, since she, Monrog, and Lancelot have been searching for the elf and dwarf for the past 7 days. No one knows who or what has taken them. Fesliyan was now a menacing vampire. His warm nature, kind mannerisms, and charismatic smile was hidden from the world. His hair was unkept rather than slicked back and proper. He only accepted this request from Death after the Reaper told him time would stand still in their own respective timeline. Fesliyan Hunt would have to return immediately, since the hybrids had been set loose onto the city of Redwater, while his beloved Redwater police station had put a bounty on the vampire's head. Meanwhile, Victor the Grey Wolf had been traveling far and wide on his journey. He could have played the waiting game for the 5 monsters of the werewolf trials, but time was of the essence. The longer the trials took, the more time the demons would have to send their army. However, he heard murmurs from villages and towns about a beanstalk high up in the mountain. Rumors of a man living with giants that slaughtered his own kind. That was his barrier to cross in order to reach Hilno, the insectoid creature made of stone. So why did they choose to help the Reaper? They knew that if Ragnar Liefsson died, then everything they are setting out to do would be in vain. Victor Humbridge may be the werewolf of the prophecy, but Ragnar the White Wolf was always the anchor. Then Taker, Dad's apprentice, and Avery, the bookstore demon, had apparated into the swamp. They were holding hands but parted them the moment they saw the Reaper. Taker bowed in respect to the trio while Avery introduced themselves. Taker then looked at Dad and asked, "What's the plan, sir?" There was an awkward silence that filled the air. The Grim then spoke with seriousness and authority. "You and Avery will get Ragnar out of that building at the end of the swamp. The werewolf, vampire, and witch will fight off against Famine's skeleton army." Myra then asked,
"What about you? What will you do?"
"There's more than one power surging through that building. Famine isn't alone, and I suspect war has joined forces with her. No one engaged in battle with them, do I make myself clear? I will take them both on." Victor and Fesliyan had asked the same question at the same time. What skeleton army? Death pointed in the distance. That skeleton army. Famine's army marches towards them, their weapons gradually appearing out of thin air covered in poison and tailored to the allies' weaknesses. Thousands of undead warriors hasten their pace, running with silver swords and spears for the werewolf, wooden stakes and arrows for the vampire, and flaming torches to burn the witch alive. The werewolf, witch, and vampire stood united with Myra in the middle. Her eyes lit up purple while Victor's changed from blue to red. Fesliyan's fangs pushed out while his nails grew long and sharp. And so they charged towards the skeleton army, fighting with all their might, hoping the Grim Reaper can save the White Wolf. Death vanished into a wisp of dark smoke and broke through the dungeon window. Famine was startled, but War never budged. He was relaxed, calm, and calculated as if death was no threat to him. Death looked at Ragnar laying on the table unconscious, becoming an experiment of Famine's. He glanced at War and tightened the grip on his scythe. Famine charged at the Reaper, but Death swung his scythe and struck her so hard she broke the dungeon wall with the impact rolling in the swamp, trying to slow down. The Reaper then removed daggers from his cloak, then tossed them at War in succession. War raised his finger and the daggers stopped in mid-air, unable to touch him. The Grim knew War would do that. He wasn't trying to hurt him, not at that moment at least. that was a mere distraction. Death teleported outside the swamp and ran towards Famine, whereas Taker and Avery apparated into the dungeon directly next to Ragnar Liefsson. Taker grabbed the werewolf while Avery jumped on War's back, tightening the grip on the chokehold that she had on him. Miss Avery was indeed strong, far stronger than any usual demon, but War treated this incident like a human trying to shake off an insect. Taker yelled at Avery to let go, but the demon felt that she could bring War down. She yelled at Taker to get Ragnar out of there while she held back War. He hesitated. He was scared. Taker teleported with the white wolf and kept him next to a tree trunk in the swamp, then teleported back into the dungeon. However, War had broken the hold Avery had on him. His giant hand held her by the throat while she struggled, scratching and kicking his metal mask. War looked at Taker and said,
"Is this who my brother sends to take me on? His apprentice and a pathetic, worthless demon."
He used his other hand and grabbed Avery's ankles while keeping the grip on her throat. War then yanked Avery's neck and legs from either end, ripping the demon in half. Taker was numb. He wanted to scream, he wanted to yell and shout, but no voice left his throat. His eyes widened with anger, but mostly fear at the power that War carried around. He loved Avery, but such was a life of being an apprentice. He knew how catastrophic it would be disobeying orders. No time to mourn, no time to grieve, and no time to seek revenge. He teleported outside the dungeon and placed his hands onto the white wolf's chest. With tears rolling down his face, Taker began healing the werewolf rapidly. Victor, Myra, and Fesliyan fought bravely, cutting down the skeleton army. With massive swipes and bites from the werewolf, with cursed magic from the witch tearing them apart, with the vampire's nails so sharp it cut through bone, Famine's army was destroyed. The trio, however, never did come out unscathed. They obtained wounds that would take ages to heal. But now wasn't the time to rest. They saw War, the giant personification of doom, heading towards Taker and Ragnar. Death and Famine had engaged in a fight of epic proportions. They both had a skill set mastered and tailored to their own strengths. Death was more of a counter-striker, waiting for his opponent to make a move and then capitalizing on it, whereas Famine was more of a sneaky grappler. Her small size helped her maneuver around the opponent, then get a hold of them and toss them like pillows. The fight was evenly matched. The Reaper knew his sister was strong, so this was no surprise to him. The troublesome change of the tide, however, came from the fact that Famine got stronger as the fight progressed, whereas Death got weaker. Famine was drawing strength from her swamp. Her punches were starting to feel like sonic waves with the impact behind them. Taker continued healing Ragnar, but he could feel War behind him. Victor the Grey Wolf ran towards both of them, grabbing War in a bear hug from the back, lifting him up in the air. War was surprised on how strong Victor was, but that moment lasted for a short while. War elbowed him in the face, sending the Grey Wolf tumbling. Fesliyan tried his luck with a barrage of slices and swipes. He was quick, so quick that his hands looked like blurs. But War dodged every one of those attacks with only his black cloak taking the brunt of it. He grabbed the vampire and headbutted him, sending Fesliyan flying against a tree. Myra then cast dark magic against the rider while summoning Nala, the large serpent. War grabbed the snake by its head and tossed it aside like it was nothing. This time the witch could not divide her magic. The snake then vanished while Myra focused her spells on War. Her purple supernatural force mixed with dark smoke had picked the giant up 4 inches above the ground. War had a momentary lapse of panic, but Myra's power faded. Perhaps if she embraced the darkness, her nose wouldn't have bled and her power would not have wavered. War laughed, somewhat impressed by the trio's effort. He cracked his knuckles and rubbed the crick in his neck, then stretched and said,
"My turn."
He dashed towards Fesliyan faster than the vampire ever was, then punched a hole through Fesliyan's chest, killing him instantly. War vanished and appeared behind the grey werewolf and snapped Victor's neck. He then walked towards Myra, witnessing how depleted of energy she was. The witch was on her knees trying to get up, but War stepped on her head, smashing it into a pulp. However, when he turned around towards Taker, the white wolf was no longer on the ground. Ragnar stood behind War, angrier as ever, with his blood-red eyes shining brighter than the giant's. He channeled all his power into his fist and landed a solid right cross to War's face, denting the iron mask and dropping the giant to one knee. Taker saw this chance to freeze War with his own dark magic. He knew he couldn't hold War for long, but a few minutes were all they needed. Death shouted from his end while fighting Famine, "Ragnar, do you trust me?" The white wolf picked his head up, found Death, and said yes. The Reaper told the werewolf to raise his hand out and think of the happiest memory that he stored away. One specific memory that would numb the pain. Ragnar thought about Luna. He thought about how much she loved him, how much she cared and helped him. He thought about the day their beautiful son Maximus was born. The day when the mighty Ragnar Liefsson, a fearsome warrior knight, had tears of happiness rolling down his face. He then reached his hand out, and so did the Reaper. Famine ran towards Death, trying to stop him. She knew what he was going to do, but it was too late. The Werewolf and Reaper floated towards each other like a supernatural force was pulling them. Their hands were drawn together like magnets. And as Taker's hold on War had diminished and Famine trying to stop the Werewolf and Reaper, the swamp had been overtaken by darkness. The sky turned dark with the sound of rumbling thunder echoing through. Lightning struck the ground in succession and Famine was caught in it. White and black smoke mixed together, blending with each other, and nothing more could be seen. With his massive forearm, War hit Taker so hard the apprentice broke through the trees in the swamp. Then just as he was about to kill Taker, the giant rider of the apocalypse was stopped dead in his tracks. He felt an object hit the back of his shoulder. It rolled on the ground after impact and War's eyes had widened. This object was Famine's head. Then at that moment, War witnessed the Werewolf and the Reaper walking towards him, but they were one. Slow and steady in the pouring rain, a beast awakens. A tall, muscular, light gray figure with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness. His black hooded cloak gets drenched in the swamp water with every monstrous stride that he took. Ragnar and Death's unique features were molded into one. This was the Grim-Werewolf, a being that had a power that War never felt in his entire life. The Grim-Werewolf looked at the trio on the ground, lifeless. He gently moved his hands like moving invisible water flowing in the air. Suddenly the witch draws breath. The grey wolf's neck turns back into its normal position, giving him life. Fesliyan's heart, as well as the hole in his chest, repaired itself, making the vampire breathe again. The Grim-Werewolf used his hand and struck the air quick and hard, cutting a line through space and time itself. He looked at Taker, then back at the trio. Finally, he speaks. His words had both the voices of Death and Ragnar channeling through. "We owe you our lives. When you need us, you will know what to do. For now, the four of you leave this place at once." And so Myra, Victor, Fesliyan, and Taker, now breathing life again, stumbled and jumped through the portal opened by the Grim-Werewolf. Their sacrifice, their fight, and their spirit will never be forgotten. War picked up the head of Famine and threw it over his shoulder. He removed the large warhammer from his wide back and carried it with one arm. The weapon seemed to be slightly smaller than him, yet how the hell was he carrying it so effortlessly? He swung his hammer diagonally and a supernatural barrier separated him from the Grim-Werewolf. Nothing could ever pass through this barrier. No human, no werewolf, no reaper, and certainly no magic. The Grim-Werewolf punched and kicked the invisible barrier repeatedly, Small cracks began appearing that created an opening. War showed the Grim-Werewolf the vial of blood in his possession, then teleported out of the swamp, never to be seen again. The swamp had been crumbling into a million pieces. Without Famine, this place would cease to exist. The Grim-Werewolf held his hand out and the scythe flew into it. He spun it and opened up a portal, barely making it out just before the swamp finally destroyed itself. During the teleportation process, Ragnar and Death had separated from the Grim-Werewolf. They ended up in Ragnar's world in the village of the Feroh. Their bodies felt like the insides were being ripped apart. A few hours later, the full moon lit up the sky and Ragnar took a moment to admire its beauty. They then made their way into Ragnar's village home on the mountaintop, next to the graves of Luna and Maximus.
Why didn't we chase after War? We could have taken him.
Maybe not, but I did something really bad, Ragnar.
What are you talking about?
The witch, werewolf, and vampire weren't supposed to die in that swamp. I wasn't supposed to bring them back to life either. I know by doing so, I created yet another rift in the timeline. Miss Avery's death is something I will grieve over for a very long time, but she was a demon. No one can bring demons back. If we chased after War, I don't know what would have happened to us. You saw what Famine did to you. You saw how long it took me to best her in battle. War is on a different league on his own. By no means we can face him without a plan. He has 5 war chiefs and the biggest dragon I have ever seen. His world is entirely different.
You're scared.
Scared? We could have parted ways during the fight against him, then both of us would have died. This is the first time that we became one. We don't know what we're capable of, we don't know how long the possession lasts for, what weaknesses we have, what strengths we have. It's too risky. Then at that moment, someone knocked on Ragnar's door. 3 slow knocks from what sounded like a very heavy hand. Death and Ragnar looked at each other in confusion. The White Wolf never gets visitors. The village of Feroh was empty. The Reaper told the werewolf to stay back while he opened the door, ready to attack, but stopped immediately. Death backed up from the door in disbelief. No, it cannot be, he said. And so, The Werewolf and the Reaper Volume 1 finally comes to an end, as Belru Caesar, the first werewolf that has ever been created, stands outside Ragnar's home. If you've made it this far into the video, I would like to thank you for watching and all for listening to my stories this year. It was a huge moment for me to reach 1,000 subscribers, and for that I am truly grateful. This year was more focused on the fantasy horror series since more people seem to like that. Next year, however, I do want to continue uploading my standalone horror stories that delve into the psychological and paranormal aspects of horror as well as folklore topics. That's how I started this channel, and I really don't want to lose that. So 1 week would be fantasy horror, 1 week would be normal stories. Furthermore, with regards to the Werewolf and the Reaper series, I will be uploading all the chapters into one really long video. This will include the very first time that Death met Ragnar, which was in the Curse of the Werewolf series episode 6. Just so you have all the parts into one video if you ever need to catch up. But yeah, that's about it for me everyone, so besides that compilation video with volume 1, you shall hear from me in 2025. January will kick off with the Vampire Cup finale. I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that you stay safe and keep well. Until the next one, do take care.